All right, Kevin back with you, and we are here for another episode of the $1 Million Relationships Podcast. And today I am here with Rich. And Rich, first of all, this is the first conversation that you and I have ever had, but yet here we are. I mean, right before we started recording, we got to talk a little bit, and there was just like this instant connection. I love it when that happens, and I'll talk about why that is. But first of all, I just want to thank you for taking the time to do this, because I know how busy you are. So,
my pleasure. Good to be here. Well, we'll have some fun together.
Yes, we will. And I was mentioning to you as isn't it awesome when like people like us that we can meet for the first time, and because you and we have this mutual friend, Brian, who both of us just have this immense amount of love and admiration and respect for, that because of we have that connection with Brian, it just carries over to both you and I, and we can just it's almost like we've known each other for years thanks to Brian.
Isn't that why I love that? That's true. Thanks, Brian.
That's right.
And Coco.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. And I just love Brian and his wife, and of course I've interviewed Brian for this podcast, and so I'm really looking forward to interviewing you as well, Rich. And so what I'd like to do is just kind of start off by letting you share a little bit about who you are, what you do, what inspires you to do what you do, and just kind of give the listeners a little bit of context on who Rich is.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's going way back. When I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed as learning disabled. Diagnosis, they call it hyperkinetic disorder, which today it's ADHD. But put on Ritalin and did really lousy in school. Didn't even graduate with my high school class. So that put me on this path of, one, having that inner voice of, you're stupid, you're never going to amount to anything, you're never going to be successful. I had that little gremlin in my head saying that to me. And then I started to weight train when I was in my senior year of high school. And it really changed things for me. It showed me that I could build my willpower, I could be disciplined, I could focus, I could set a goal. And so it really changed me internally. Wow. And that carried over to my educational goals. I went on to get my degree, opened a health club when I was young, when I was 23 years old, and grew that. And so there's a passion for me in helping people overcome their limiting beliefs. There's a passion for me in helping people and supporting people to live their best lives. So fast forward into today, my wife, Kathy, and I have a real estate investment company. That's how we know Brian, how we know Brian. And so now today we help people invest in real estate around the United States, referring to property teams like Brian, who was on your show. And they help them get into 1 to 4 unit properties that cash flow and have tenants in place and all that stuff. And so it's kind of this blend of, before real estate, I was a business and personal coach. So the same thing, working with people one-on-one, helping them develop themselves, be better, reach their goals and all that. So I feel like it carried over into our company, which is called Real Wealth, is the name of our company. So it's carried over into Real Wealth on helping people. What we call real wealth is having the money, but also the freedom to live life on your own terms. So helping people get better, live better lives and all that. So that's where I am today, doing all that. My high school English teacher would be amazed that I just came out with a book that was just released called The Wise Investor. So those high school teachers who said I was never going to amount to anything, I even have deficiency reports that say, that lacks the motivation to succeed, things like that. So nice turnaround.
Yeah. Wow. As soon as you started sharing that, Rich, I immediately thought of my brother, who was diagnosed when he was young in school and had an experience similar to yours in how teachers and people responded to him. And
you get labeled.
Yeah. And yet he found a way to deal with his stuff. In fact, for him, he had ADHD, or he what's it called when you transpose letters? You see them transposed, and
dyslexic.
Yes, dyslexic. Yeah. Yes, and so he ended up carrying a notebook with him a lot, and where he would write stuff down and just keep notes to help him out, and he just learned to deal with this. Ended up getting into
Awesome.
engineering, started working on boats in Alaska, and now he works in all kinds of stuff. He's worked in Grand Cayman, running the whole in charge of the whole power company for the whole island, and he's just
Wow.
done all. I mean, got a very successful career as an engineer, and loves doing what he does. And nobody that knew him when he was young would believe that he's doing what he does now. He's
That's awesome. I love that.
learned, he's improvised, overcame, and adapted, So kind of like,
Yeah. He's come up with his own system and structure to stay focused and learn and grow. It's really cool.
Right. That's right. So now that we've got a little bit of context set here, I'd like to, I'm going to go ahead and shift gears. What I'll do is I'll reiterate the question for the benefit of the listeners here. And so, Rich, have you ever been introduced to a person that just completely changed the course of your life or your business, so much so that much of what you have today would not be possible if not for this person? And I'm just really excited to hear your story, your experience around this, give you the opportunity to honor somebody who's had such a profound impact on your life, because I know it's also going to just inspire listeners, anybody who hears that, to place a little bit more intention on creating more real, meaningful, rewarding, and profitable relationships in their lives.
Yeah, I definitely have that person. And I don't know if this is normal. I guess nothing's normal, right? But it's my wife, Kathy.
Okay.
I met her in 1995 when I moved from Boston to California. I had sold that health club I mentioned, and I became a personal and business coach.
Okay.
And I had this thriving coaching practice. I was just signed a book deal with Simon & Schuster. I was giving keynotes all over the country, touring the country, news shows and everything, just on top of my game, just feeling incredibly just blessed and stoked, really. And then I was diagnosed with melanoma, which is a skin cancer. And that's not the worst thing. The worst thing is that they thought it spread to my liver. And I met with an oncologist after a couple of months of testing, from a CT scan to an ultrasound. And that oncologist said that I had 6 months to live. Said, it looks like it spread to your liver. You have about 6 months to live. And Kathy and I she was just stay-at-home mom at the time. And this is after we got married. And we got married in 97. And so this is 2002, when I was 2003, I was diagnosed. And Kathy didn't know what to do to make ends meet if I died, for an income. So she started to just seek out mentors. She started to talk to financially successful people to say, how did you do it? How did you, get financial success? And most of them were real estate investors. And one of them was a mortgage broker. And he said, if you get your license, your real estate license, you can work for me, you can be a mortgage broker, and I'll also teach you about investing. So Kathy got excited about that. She said, I think I've got an answer. And then thankfully, the doctor's diagnosis was wrong. The melanoma did not spread to my liver like they thought. It was just what they call a false positive. They just saw these masses on my liver that were just clusters of blood vessel that's harmless. But it was that diagnosis that was kind of a curse, but also the blessing that got Kathy to learn about real estate investing. And because of that, we started to invest. And as we started to invest, because of her influence and, her let's go for this, let's do it. She's a quick start. She jumps right into things, and she learns by experimenting and all that. So she jumped right in. She bought our first investment property. Then we went out to Dallas and bought 5 more investment properties. And then that led us to having friends and family and other people saying, how are you doing this? How are you investing in real estate out of state? And we just decided to, form a group of people. We'll support each other. We'll mentor. We'll show people how we did it. Kathy can do the mortgages for them. And that little group that we wanted to form, we thought it would just be maybe 100 people tops. And that has now grown to over 64,000 members in Real Wealth. So because of Kathy and her influence and her drive and her belief in me, she's always acknowledging me and seeing part of me that I don't see in myself. Always, like, she puts me up here, which is awesome. I do my best to do that for her, but her ability to take risks, to make connections, to see a deal in real estate, really understand it, has been a huge influence on me, and it's helped us grow this organization with we had 27 employees at one time. Right now, I think we're about 20, right around 20 employees.
Okay.
And we have all those property teams that we refer to, like Brian and 15 other property teams that have become great friends, and we've made millions of dollars together, and we've helped investors acquire over $1.1 billion in assets. So we've helped investors make a lot of money too.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's Kathy who would be the biggest influence on my life financially, in business, and more than that, just in life, who I am today.
Yeah. It's interesting because after doing as many of these interviews as I have, I typically, when somebody starts sharing like you did about this individual who's had such an impact, it will lead me to then asking the question, okay, what are one or two things that happened because of this relationship that would not have happened? But yet you have already like just shared so much. And I don't know if there's anything else that comes up for you. But I do want to point out and acknowledge too, because just how you honored your wife. I mean, I am a married guy we have 7 kids, 4 older ones who are married and out of the home and have kids of their own. I've also got 6 grandchildren and then 3 younger ones that are still under our roof. And I am just, my wife is just this absolutely amazing woman that is a grandma, that is a mom, that her last day at work working outside of the home was February 28th of 2008. And I believe she works harder as a mom than she ever did working outside of the home. And I have so much love and appreciation for her. And so it does my heart good to hear another man talk about his wife that way. But I don't know if anything else comes up for you. You've shared a lot already, but I want to, if anything else does come up, I want to make sure you have the opportunity to share, because like I said, I really, my goal is to instill because as entrepreneurs, relationships are the most valuable asset that we have. And I just want to really instill in other entrepreneurs and inspire them to just, like I said, place more focus on creating those relationships. So anything else you want to share? I mean, and to honor Kathy?
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind, there's a lot of things, but one thing that comes to mind specifically, even before the real estate investing, when I was coaching and speaking, and I had a lot of people when I would speak come up and say, do you have a book? And I'm like, no, not yet, not yet. So finally, I, started to get up at 4 a.m. to write my book. And I finished that book proposal and started to shop it around. I find an agent and was shopping with all the major publishers. And I remember a little note I came in and was on my desk, and it was a picture of a lion, and she had drawn a little voice bubble coming out of it on a piece of paper. She taped it to it and said, yes, $150,000 advance would be fine. Right. And so I got it. I looked at it and I laughed, and I came out and into our kitchen and I said, yeah, that's funny. I said, I'm a first time author. It's like first time authors don't get $150,000 advance. And she goes, don't, you got to just believe in yourself. I ended up getting $150,000 advance from Simon and Schuster as a first time author, because the book went into auction. There was a couple different publishers who were interested in my first book, and it went to auction. So they started bidding it up, and it ended up at $150,000 advance. So it's that type of thing that is just her belief and encouragement. Having a partner like that, whether it be a business partner or a life partner, I think is just huge. That constant acknowledgement and encouragement and belief that's the game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. What an amazing story. And yeah, I've been on the receiving end of that with my wife too, to just, to have a woman behind us who sometimes sees things in us that we can't see in ourselves, and who believes in us. I mean, man, that is just so valuable. And I want to thank you for just taking the time to have this conversation and share this story about Kathy and the impact that she's had on your life. So for anybody listening to this, who's like, Kev, man, Kev, I really like Rich. I love hearing from him. I just love the way that he shows up. How can they find out more information about what you guys do? I know you mentioned your book, you mentioned your business. How can they find more information?
Yeah, the book is called The Wise Investor. It just came out through Rich Dad on Rich Dad Authors,
Okay.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So it's a parable, it's a modern day parable, and it's about creating financial freedom and also living your best life. So it's on Amazon. It's on all major booksellers. It comes out as a hardcover in late August of
Okay.
this year, 2022, and also an audiobook, which was a fun challenge because I did the narration. It's 10 different characters. There's men, there's women, there's children in it. So I had to do some voice acting lessons to prepare for it.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, so The Wise Investor, it would be a great way to get to know me because it's my philosophy and my approach, and it's everything I've learned as a coach for the last 25 years and as a real estate investor and business owner for the last 19 years, woven into a story. And I did a story because I wanted it to be engaging and I wanted to emotionalize the information that would really elicit a change in people. So they can really realize that they can live life on their own terms. It's just things that we can do in life to do that. So that, and then our company is called, just really simple, just realwealth.com. And that's where we help people invest in real estate.
Very good. Very good. Well, Rich, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation today. We definitely, achieved the objectives that I had set out for this. And any last thing you want to share before we call it a wrap?
Just to thank you. I mean, those are powerful questions and really good ones that just had me reflect and go deep. And honestly, I've never been asked that question before. So really stepping back and looking at like, who is the most influential person on my business life and my whole life? It's like, thank you for that question because it helped me get clarity and go in the other room and give my wife a hug.
There you go. There you go. Well, my pleasure, Rich, and thank you again. It was great having this conversation with you. I'm excited to share it with other people, other entrepreneurs.
Awesome. Thank you.